Guys, Nintendo Switch got some pretty dope ass games. I think it was this morning. This is from GameStop, and the article is Nintendo Switch is getting Control and Hitman 3 via cloud streaming. Control is a beast of a game. Like, it even gives some PCs some like trouble running Control with ray tracing and everything, and now it's able to run on the Switch, where the Switch was getting mocked for how it ran Fortnite.
Yep.
So holy shit, this is actually, we're in the future, guys. This is the future, the spooky future,
the magic of
Halloween.
The spooky future.
The future where we keep our pants on before we leave the house.
Yeah, don't leave. I'm not gonna do it. Chris, I'm gonna let you take this one, big dog.
I'll probably start this by the first time I was kind of became aware that Switch was trying out cloud gaming was, I think it was last year. It was announced that Resi 7 was being released on the Switch in Japan only, which I thought was pretty crazy because at the time, I mean, it still looks fantastic. And I think you're probably going to talk about it in a bit, Randy, but quite clearly there was no way that could run on a Switch without being utterly throttled.
Not at all. Yeah, totally.
And then it was kind of announced that the way they were doing it was by using game streaming or cloud gaming or cloud streaming or whatever you want to kind of term it, which effectively
they're calling it just via cloud streaming.
Yeah. So
GameSpot.
All the computing is done entirely in the cloud. And to a lot of people, this may not be a surprise at all. I kind of enjoyed talking to Randy about it because clearly it was kind of relatively new for you.
Just for our listeners who may not be super or like know a ton about what that means. So when you say it's being computed in the cloud, like in layman's terms, what does that mean?
Well, actually, when I was studying about this particular subject, technology and that stuff, I actually got a little excited for Stadia because of this exact reason, because I was like, if they can pull this off, this would be crazy. Mm-hmm. But essentially, when you're talking about the cloud, it's literally just a computer somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you have a bunch of computers that you're connected to via the internet. So what's happening is that you have you're connected to a server. So you go on your Switch and you'll connect to a server that then connects to a computer that's running Control. And that computer then sends essentially the feed of the gameplay to your Switch. And then you'll see the gameplay on your Switch, but your Switch isn't actually running the game. All it's running is a connection from you along with like your inputs to another computer that's a server. And they call it the cloud because it's like, it's like a computer up in the clouds.
About Project X Cloud, so Microsoft's, they have their own cloud, which is the Azure cloud. Amazon have AWS. Google have their own Google Cloud, which is what Stadia is running on. And they all have different strengths and weaknesses. Not every cloud is alike. And so therefore, you can expect a difference in the one real downside of cloud gaming, which is latency. So obviously, it's not like you're on Netflix because Netflix is just coming to you. You have no idea whether there's a delay or not, as long as it's contiguous and just continuous.
Exactly.
With gaming, the inputs cause a big challenge. And so that's kind of what Leo was referring to in terms of Stadia. And, Project X Cloud, Microsoft like to tout that theirs is one of the, the shortest lag and latency. And so that's one of the problems. And honestly, I first tried this with Sony's PlayStation Now, where all of their PS Now games originally were purely provided to you via streaming.
Right. I tried that also, and it was horrible.
Yeah. So you've done it exactly. And that's why. But that was kind of old tech. And I don't know whether Sony have improved or who they're using. They may be using AWS. I can't imagine they'd go to their arch rivals, Microsoft, and use it. But so this was the first time that I tried it on Switch. I don't know what cloud they're using. I kind of did some brief testing in terms of latency on a, from the perspective of just being in the lobby and tapping jump, which you can generally tell what latency is like if you just tap a button on off and see the reaction. And it did seem to vary. The ideal scenario that you can have, and Stadia is a great example where they say, look, you need to be plugged in. Wi-Fi is obviously going to introduce additional latency. So for the best scenario, you need a super low ping and you need to be connected to your modem. But what it means is ray tracing on Switch effectively. And there's two options as you go in. You've got the performance option and you've got the, I think it's the frame rate option. So you can play 60 frames a second, or you can play with ray tracing on and 30 frames a second, which is insane.
Which is insane, especially since it's a stream. Like you're not, it's not running on your device.
Yeah. And obviously you have, from a Switch perspective, it doesn't output 4K. So from a handheld perspective, it outputs 720, and from a a docked perspective, it can output 1080. But ignoring the fact that resolution, it's not going to be, oh, is it 4K or is it not? It looks really, really, really good, and it looks way better than anything that the Switch can perform. And so I beta tested Project xCloud as well, and I was using just my phone. All you need is a screen, really. And it was. Again, that was I was streaming Gears 5, and that varied between being completely unplayable and actually really good, but it was way too inconsistent, but it was a beta.
Sure.
So I honestly do think that streaming is the future, or at least a future, and it being, very much a lot of games come out this way. It's just whether the game type suits the lag that you're inevitably going to get. And I say that because on PS Now, I played Tomb Raider, and there was a QTE section. So, tap A and you'll, dodge a rock. And QTE is terrible when you've got latency, because you have a really small window in which you need to press that button.
Yeah, that's like the quick time.
Quick time event, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was awful, and I had to stop. But then other games that are way more chill and slow pace, and you don't need lightning fast reactions, really suit it very well. So
yeah. So going back to what you posted earlier on our Twitter and Instagram pages at Super Average Gaming on Twitter and Instagram, and like you did mention in the post that you're not in any like shootouts or anything like that, so you didn't get to test that. But the fact that it's there is a big deal. Like it's a huge step forward for gaming.
Totally. And what was interesting for me was that I probably recorded that video like 3 times, and the one that I posted was probably the quickest, the shortest lag and latency. So clearly performance will vary depending on, how your internet connection is, quite frankly.
Again, that's another thing. You have to have a good... Yeah.
But,
and you also it sucks for people who have data caps, because...
Oh, yeah, without question.
Not gonna...
Yeah, I think as the standards for internet start rising, because that's really the main thing is... Nobody has internet I'm not going to say nobody. A lot of people don't have internet that can withstand something like that. Like I know, like I have my router hardlined into my PC, and I know that that's not going to run it super well, even if I wanted it to. But it might run it better than running on my laptop. But it's like, it's an awesome concept when I'm looking at it in terms of like what you're accomplishing tech wise. But I don't think the infrastructure in terms of internet is there quite yet. I think we're several years out. Even if they like made it as perfect as you can get it, it all depends on what internet you have. And some people just won't be able to get or use it at all, no matter what. Like some certain areas, like if you go to any rural area, you're going to pay for your max internet and you're going to get like 8 megabits down. So it's like,
that's a really good point. We completely forget that we're in major cities.
Yeah.
But I do think, it's potentially a Trojan horse to get onto, other devices, or to have people test. If you wanted to test an Xbox game, technically there could be an Xbox. In fact, I think the Game Pass Xbox app does allow you to do this, but you could use your iPhone or use your Android phone and try out that game. So at the moment, and the reason I mention that is because Control is free. Because as much as anything, I think they know there's a lot of skepticism out there. And so I was like, well, yeah, I'll just give it a try. And it's no cost. And I think they charge as there's like a paywall, literally. And you, so
like in game, you run into a wall and it's like, insert your card.
Quite literally.
They send you a thing that you can plug into your Switch.
Yeah, 100%. So anyway, that's kind of cool. Looking forward to seeing where it goes. And I'm going to try Control out a lot more. And you've got a Switch. You should do it as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll see.